I'm back outside again. I came for the M's, I came for the win. Yeah, me and all my friends. It's a 4th century, man, we all going in. Big bro, I rock told. Better use what you got, get what you want. Swear to God, since that day, I've been cooking it back, trying to make this shit cross.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Beezy Show. We are here in beautiful Santa Clarita. Very special guest today. We saw each other at NAMM, kind of connected there. It was really awesome this year. A lot of big things going on over there. So it was just a really cool time to catch up. And today we have him here, Maor Appelbaum. Thank you so much for being here. How you doing?
Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate it.
I just appreciate you again for being here and allowing us to kind of break down what you do and how the the viewers, which is why we started the podcast, just to kind of provide value, and we're just glad to be able to have you. So
Well, everybody brings something to the table.
yeah,
If a professional brings his knowledge and you have your knowledge
Mhm.
in your field and you're presenting it's kind of it's a community thing where, we're all responsible for exchanging
Mm.
the information.
Yeah,
Either we say, like I say it and you move, you record it, or any other engineer or musician you have on your show
Yeah.
here, we're exchanging
yeah,
things. We're bringing out information that I think is very useful, and it gives a lot of perspective
for sure.
on so many accounts,
Oh,
not just
absolutely.
music.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Even again, just off some of the the interviews that we've had already this year, it's like just to get some of that feedback online even. And I try not to, have that validation too much. I know it's online and that's kind of gonna go how it's gonna go, but it is nice to get some nice messages from people. It's like, oh, you had, this person on, that person on, I learned this thing that they did. And I'm like, nice, this is working. This is really working. What was, kind of some of the earlier memories of you and like music and the connection of be getting into music, and kind of where you grew up and like your early days to kind of where we are now today?
Well, I probably forgot more than I remember. um,
Me too.
well, I think something that's very similar to me, to with me and other people is, I was a music fan. I'm still a music fan. I played in bands that I was part of and
Nice.
projects, so I felt in a source of enjoyment from it and involvement.
Mm.
Um, in time, I wanted to develop more knowledge
Mm.
on the technical aspects, and I found myself gravitating to certain elements of the production,
Mm.
which was the mastering.
Yeah.
So from early on, I remember that's something that I really wanted to do. And back in the day, it wasn't like the most interesting thing for a lot of people
Right.
because mastering was kind of behind closed doors. Most were like into do production,
Right.
recording, mixing.
Right.
And I did want that. And I've done that to a certain degree, of course, with bands of mine. But I really found myself gravitating to that part where it's just before it's released.
Mm.
Because I was a DJ at clubs and I had radio shows that I was part of. I was a music journalist and I had a label of my own and I
Wow.
released my own music and I had like a mail order thing kind of like I
Yeah.
was involved in a lot of the parts of the product and
Mm.
I wanted to be able to be the buffer between the final product and the release. And I had my own bands which I, did shows with and
Mm.
recorded and released records, CDs,
Yeah.
and stuff like that back then. So I always felt that I think that the final step was that there for me.
Mm.
Probably because I also felt that that's the least political element of the process.
Mm.
You need less to be a diplomat there.
Yes.
Um,
Totally agree.
and also I was a broadcasting engineer for a lot of years, so
Mm.
I kind of had an understanding of the process in the end.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do some radio, I had a radio, like an internet radio,
Oh,
when it
wow.
was still new, like I'm talking about 2004.
Wow.
And of course, when you DJ, you see what moves the crowd.
For
You see
sure.
what works in the club.
For sure.
So your perspective is from a lot of places
Mm-hmm.
as after the fact.
Right.
And mastering is just one step before after the fact.
Right.
It's, you got me the mix, now I'm tweaking it, and now it's
out there.
Yeah. With distribution and whatever
Right.
release form. But that's what I felt that was the right thing for me. And I tried to go there as much as possible. There were a lot of challenges on the way, because it's not like today where you can buy a computer for not much money and a bundle of plugins that are amazing for cheap.
Yep.
And there's weekend sales, for $29 or
every
whatever.
other week. And
yeah, back then, if you wanted a bundle of plugins, you were looking at a few $1,000. I mean, like $4,000, $6,000, and computers were expensive to be, if you were good.
Yeah.
Computers and converters and gear, everything was like really expensive.
So expensive.
And not easy to get a hold of, because not all the vendors would have it.
Right.
It's not like you would walk in any store and they had stuff.
Right.
But today, different ball game.
Totally different.
If I was starting today, it was much easier and cheaper too.
Oh goodness!
And today, you even have great headphones that back then you wouldn't have. Even speakers. Today, there's affordable speakers that sound amazing.
Yeah.
So everything changed, of course. But the journey is part of it, and you learn so much on the way. So I worked, doing other audio jobs. I did some live sound. I did stage work, monitor engineering. I worked on, as an assistant. When I came to America, I worked for Sylvia Massey.
Wow.
And I did the various jobs at the studio. Sometimes I was assisting for tracking. Sometimes I was assisting for mixing.
Yeah.
I did some mastering work on stuff that I brought in, and there was some stuff there. I did mixing for some projects. I did tracking for some projects. I did kind of overall studio maintenance stuff.
Right.
It's like
you've literally done it all.
I wouldn't say all, but I did what I needed to do then as part of the staff in the studio. If I've done it to the best abilities, well, you're learning, right? So maybe then I was doing the best I knew how to do, or or could. At the time, but I learned from every part of the process, and I progressed.
Yeah.
That's what's important.
What specifically drew you to that portion of it? I know we touched on it, but what was it that said, you know what, I want to really be in this part of the process? It's just such an interesting, place to be for a mastering engineer.
I think it has to do with, the cliche is follow your heart, right? But I think it was more about, I felt strong about it because I felt that I can bring a lot to the table. Like, if you ask me if I can produce, I can probably produce, but there's people who can do it better because they have other skills that are needed in production that are not always the technical side. Like, some of them should, is like psychological. Some of them is being a good diplomat or politician or whatever. So, and also, some good producers can be not knowing music, and some could be knowing a lot of music, but a lot of the work behind production is not just technical. It's a lot of how to work with the artist on a personal level. Okay, some people are better at that.
For sure.
In terms of like tracking, well, good tracking engineers now are hard to find because a lot of it is knowing how to work with the mics and how to put them. It's not just let's hook a mic to a preamp and set the levels.
Right.
They might, it might seem like that, but a lot of that goes into the practice of choosing the right mics, positioning them, choosing the right pre's for that mic, all that. And it's way bigger than it looks. There's a difference between overdubbing, like overdubbing, recording vocals or
Right, right.
then tracking drums and the whole band and
Right.
getting those amazing results with that.
Yeah.
Same with mixing. If you look at mixing back in the day, most of it was on a board. You had effects that you route, connect, cabling, all that. A lot of mixing today is also including drum editing,
Mm.
vocal tuning, a lot of those aspects that are in addition.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So for me, mastering was the purest form of me wanting what I want, that I don't have anything else to deal as much.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still knowing how to communicate with clients.
Right, right, right.
There's still figuring out problems and knowing what to do and making mistakes on the way. And
Right, right.
sometimes you got to own it, right? You
Yeah.
got to own the mistake and,
Yeah.
okay, let's do it again, and figuring out what works. And you could be great at a lot of stuff, but there might be stuff that it just didn't work, right?
Right.
So I always felt that that was my calling. I know I made it kind of sound complicated,
Right.
but it is
No,
complicated.
of course, of course.
It's not simple at all. But that's probably what the calling was,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt it very strong. And I think that that's what also made me hit the ground running.
Mm.
And I took a lot of projects on myself, even a lot for free.
Mhm.
Just to gain experience, knowledge, sharpen my skills.
Yeah.
There's a cost for everything. And,
Absolutely.
and it's time that you invest and lose, and
Absolutely.
money that you also lose,
Absolutely.
and relationships that also go with that too. And
Yeah.
sometimes you lose that just because you tried
Right.
and they see, oh, you didn't do a good job. Now they don't think of you, even though you've improved since then.
Right, 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 right.
Now you're like 10 years after, you're better, right? Oh, yeah, we remember we worked with
Yeah.
him 15 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever, and he was just starting out. He's probably still there.
Wow.
That can happen too.
I know.
That's the truth. I mean, let's face it. A lot of times in this industry, we have to remember a lot of the truth is not out there.
Right.
People don't talk about the struggles as much because, they want to keep cool.
Right.
But the reality is there's a lot of struggles.
Absolutely.
Not everybody's having a happy day every day, and not every project is that fun to work on, even if
Absolutely.
they're excited that they got the job.
Absolutely. That's one thing that I do, appreciate you touching on, because that's one thing I think that, just kind of people who are starting off, they see it as like, definitely it's the social media too that I think kind of, highlights what we think really is when it isn't. I've for sure been in scenarios where, you think, oh, this amazing artist and, these people are, and then it's like, it's not as rosy rose garden and very, it's a lot more hectic than people really think, just deadlines and, it's just so much that is involved in what, musically you do and artists as well, like what they do. And that I think, it's something that needs to be definitely, you said, talked about, understanding that you're going to sacrifice a lot. And, actually, that's why I know I always bring it up, but, big shout out to B-Star. He's one of the artists that I work with that, really made me understand that there are moments where, you will potentially lose a lot pursuing these endeavors, musically, whether it's being an artist, whether it's an engineer, and maybe you don't lose a lot. Maybe it's not even a financial, but maybe it's more of like a mental, like you're going to lose, time. You're going to, you're going to be locked in the studio. And that's just what it really comes down to. And I think that's what separates, the people that can really go far in this career from the ones that are just like trying to be cool online and, kind of see. So that's definitely something I, implore for people to kind of like, take a look at and see the examples of people who've had very long careers and, understand that, they've obviously feel very, I'm sure, fulfilled in what they do. But like you said, a lot of this comes at a cost. And, it's kind of tough to, to handle at times. And that's kind of, where, we are even just, getting the, the podcast off the ground. I was in music. I then shifted to, behind the camera and became kind of, doing that. And even that, that pivot, I always wanted to be an artist. I was songwriting. I was for years releasing music, and it was really awesome, really great experience as an artist. But then, I think once real life kind of hit me, more the financial side and things like that, I was like, I probably should do, make a pivot here at some point. Like, I really love to do music. I was, just really engulfed with it, but real life hit me kind of hard. And I'm like, nah, I gotta, maybe I can be music adjacent, but I want to like shift gears and get into more of a different space. So that's how I got into the content side of things. And
Why do you say music hit you hard? I mean, you're, I think you're punishing yourself because, when you say, well, music hit, the hard life look, not everybody wants to deal with the baggage that comes with this profession.
yeah,
I was a broadcasting engineer for a lot of years, and it was stressful.
yeah,
I didn't like doing it.
yeah,
I knew I was good at it. I got really good pay
yeah,
from it, but I did it because it was financially right for me because it helped me um, invest in my things that I wanted to do, such as being in bands.
mm-hmm,
So if you have another job, okay, that helps you pay the bills and survive and lets you have the freedom to invest in your art and craft, that's not a bad thing.
yeah,
A lot of times people downplay people
mm-hmm,
that they have a day job and on the side they do other stuff.
right,
Well, guess what? If they love what they're doing as their craft, as their art, but they also understand that in order to invest in that and to be able to keep doing what they want, they have to do something else.
mm-hmm,
That's totally fine.
yeah,
There's nothing bad about that. I make my living doing what I love doing, but it's because I'm taking in consideration all the time
mm,
from before I went into it, when I dived into it, as I'm in it,
mm-hmm,
and in my future too.
yeah,
I'm always looking the next step in it. So I have to do a lot of work to keep the ball rolling.
yeah,
And it doesn't matter how good credits I'll have. And I'm telling you right now, it doesn't matter how many awards I had. Doesn't matter how many books I've been interviewed in and how many magazine articles I've been in and podcasts I've been interviewed in and how many records I've sold with the whole catalog of stuff I've mastered. I still have to think about the next day.
yeah,
I have to think about the morning after.
yeah.
I have to make sure I'm keeping busy. So I don't think anybody should downplay their situation if they found themselves having to take a day job,
Mm-hmm.
side hustle, whatever you want to call it,
right.
to actually be able to invest and do what they really want to do. And sometimes in life you get the chance to do what you want,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes things come in your life and then they require other things.
Yeah,
I have 2 kids.
Yeah.
And they're in their teenagehood.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, guess what? The older the kid is,
yeah.
it costs more.
Yeah, it costs more.
Okay. Now, you might think that when you have a baby, it's a lot of money. Yes, it is, because you're not used to it. And now you got to invest.
Right.
But as the kid grows, schools, private schools, after school activities,
Right.
whatever you want,
Right.
food even in the house, right?
Right.
It costs.
Right.
So it makes sense. So I'm happy that I can do what I love.
Yeah.
And I love doing it, but I also love being able to provide my services to other people's art.
Mm.
That's what I do. My art is actually working on someone else's art.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also important to know that survival is also important.
Right.
If you're not surviving, then it changes your perspective.
Right.
And you have to survive. I think that's the first thing,
Yeah.
you know?
I actually thank you so much for that, because I think there is, again, that whole image thing of like, having a job and this and that. And I actually have been, very honest about, my situation, even just with music. When I was doing music, now I'm in the content side. There is, a job that I do, and it's, weekly job, whatever it is. That's how I have one, revenue coming in, and then we're doing the content, we're building it. So I love that you say that, because I think, people get caught up again. I think it's the social media. I think it's all this stuff that we see out there where you have to be doing this thing. But, the reality is, I mean, people, we have bills, we have life, we have, children, we have home, mortgage, rent, whatever, whatever the real thing is. Um, and I have actually been seeing a few artists that I've been seeing kind of come up, locally and elsewhere in the nation. But like, there has been a cool like narrative shift, I think, that's happening online about that, where these people are like saying, we're building our fan base, we're doing what we do, we love what we do, but we do have our like side hustles and other things that we do to provide for our families, and kind of live day to day. And then music becomes then a focus after that, and it's a thing of like, if you want it that bad and you really want to get to that place one day, these are the sacrifices you have to make at times, when you want to pursue something, but you need to be financially stable and take care of business at home. And so I definitely, I'm really glad you said that, because I think that needs to be heard more on just anyone that's coming up or just starting, that you can do something else, to provide for yourself, but still jump into your craft after that, and just utilize your time, prioritize your time for that.
It's not just when you're coming up. You could actually be a professional. This thing dawned at me a long time ago. When I came to LA, I didn't have money.
Hmm.
And I came to LA with back then I wasn't married, but with my with my wife, but we
Mm-hmm.
weren't married yet. And I took a job in pro audio and sales.
Mm.
And I met a lot of people,
Yeah.
right? And there was this one guy who told me one day, you can't be good if you're working, making sales. You're probably not that good as, that thing that was not easy to
Yeah.
hear. Okay. And I said to myself, well, I still have a long way to go anyway,
Yeah.
and I still have to learn, but it doesn't mean that I'm not talented
Mm-hmm.
or skilled in it. And it set with me. I learned that, when someone says something, I take what they say, there's face value to it, but there's also what can I learn from it?
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember there was another guy coming to the shop, and he was someone who, the first guy that said what he said, he was a professional, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
But then there was another guy coming in, and I asked him, hey, I told him the story, and he said, there's a lot of times where people are professionals, and they have a certain position in their career where now maybe you know, it's not the best season,
It's on the downside.
right? Or maybe they have other bills to pay, or they have to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean they're not good.
Yeah.
And I took that and I said, oh, okay. I'm starting out in LA. LA is a tough place.
Yeah.
It's social, but not friendly.
Yes. As I've been hearing a lot.
And
As I've been hearing a lot. Yeah.
and there's a lot of, this is probably the biggest Shark Tank in music. And I figured,
Absolutely.
you know what? He might be right to the fact that I'm not big because I'm here.
Right. Right.
It doesn't mean I'm not good. It doesn't mean I can't be better.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked very hard to become better. And I worked hard to get more and more work coming in.
Right.
And there was a point after 4 months of work that I couldn't do both, because I would work in the night mastering, and in the day I was at the shop.
Yeah.
So then I did a hard cut, and I said, okay, I'm going to stop working at the shop.
Wow.
And I gave in, what was that, 2 weeks, I think?
2 weeks, yeah.
Right?
2 weeks notice.
Long time ago, I don't
Yeah, it's been a while. It's
been
been
a
a while
while.
since he has it.
And I was like, and I actually did something really interesting. I knew a lot of the gear at the shop very well.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I did is instead of me pushing sales hard to make money,
Right.
I actually told my associates, I will help you guys make the sale. You start a sale, you have a problem with the technical stuff, I'll go in, help you with the sale. I'm not taking commission. And I helped my colleagues make the sale.
Yeah.
I didn't care for the commission. I had 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks, yeah. And
I was
it.
like, this is my 2 weeks of helping everybody out.
Yeah.
And I just helped everybody.
That's awesome.
And I finished working in 2 weeks. And then you're in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Because now you wake up in the day, what do I have today to do?
Yeah.
And then you start your day and you start working to get the work and you hustle. And I would go like different places, clubs, see bands, give them cards. Sunset Strip, I was walking between all. Back then there were a lot of clubs. Now there's not.
There's not.
Most of them closed.
Yeah, they're
But,
definitely, yeah.
You know, I would go to
Unfortunately.
all these clubs and shows, you know, venues we call them actually.
Yeah.
And I worked really hard to hustle. You know, if someone tells me they're hustling, I was like, I know what it is.
We'll see.
You know, if someone says, "Oh man, I'm working very hard," I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Question is how hard,
How hard?
right?
So true.
And that's what I did. And I worked really hard. And you know what's interesting about when you work really hard is as you progress and you look back, you don't look at the hard work as hard work. You look at it more like sweet upbringings. It's like, oh, I remember the days I would go to the post office with a package and send the CDs of the masters to the artist or to the label.
Yeah.
And I remember going to these shows and meeting these bands. And I remember, you know, you start to remember, of course, you forget some of the bad stuff.
For sure.
You know, some, not all.
Yeah.
And you forget some of the good stuff.
Yeah.
But you start to see that hard work that you've done more as like, that was actually fun.
Yeah.
It's not fun when you do it.
Not when you're in it.
But afterwards,
Afterwards,
it was actually fun. It was actually, because every little thing meant the world.
Yeah.
Every phone call that you talked with someone that you look up to or someone that you knew is like, oh my God, I'm talking to this guy.
Yeah.
You know, every mixer that you meet, oh my God. By the way, that's how I met Bob Horn.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He came into the shop. And I was one of the sales rep there.
Wow.
And there was a room, there was the pro audio department, which had like keyboards and software and live sound gear. And then there was a small room on the side, you know, with glass, you know, glass doors and all that. And there, that was the studio pro audio. And it had an SSL AWS.
Wow.
And it had different preamps and stuff. And Bob walked in.
Wow.
And I met him there. And we talked. And he was so cool to me.
Yeah, Bob is awesome.
So think of this. I met him either probably 17 years ago.
Wow.
And since then, we're friends.
Wow.
Yeah, and I hit him up later on. You know, he gave me his number and we talked and Facebook and, you know, we met up and yeah, and that just shows you that you meet people throughout
your whole journey.
I met a lot of reps from different companies, you know, reps from software and hardware companies. I still have good friendship with a lot of these people.
Yeah.
And I meet them at NAM or I give them a call, you know, once in a while we talk. Some of them are my clients too.
Wow.
So the whole thing of the process and the hard work, then you look back and you're like, oh, okay, you know, there's different things that you remember them for the good.
Right.
Some not, but some harder, you know, because you struggled. But you look at the struggle as part of, you know, the pain is part of the gain. You know what I mean?
The pain, the failures, that's all part of like
It's not a failure. It's a
No,
mistake.
mistake.
You know why it's not
Mistake.
a failure? If you didn't learn anything from it, then it's a failure.
That's a failure.
If it didn't work, it's a mistake. And as long as you studied it, you figured out something from it,
Yeah.
you know how to work it better, then it's just a mistake. It's not a failure. Maybe the failure was to deliver, but still, it's a mistake.
Yeah. I take that too. Even now, when things happen and maybe I kind of fell short, I always do try to approach it from that angle and just say, what can we do better next time? How can we prepare better for this? You learn from those moments, and I think that's one thing that's very hard for people to. I understand the fear of it. It's a lot. It's even today, just interviewing someone of your stature as well, and your just amazing career. I was just like, well, let's just go in there and have a good conversation and knock it out, because it's like it's I'm getting used to doing things differently, especially starting a podcast, doing this. So I think I'm learning how to talk better with people. I think doing this podcast, I think that I'm like listening more. I think that I'm as my girlfriend would say, I cut her off a little too much at home with conversation. I'll cut her off. So and I'll see the edit and I'll watch it back and I'll say, I should probably stop cutting people off when they're talking. It's probably not a good thing, but just personal things that I'm learning. But just even, people like yourself in this career that you've had, and just to be able to learn, and really to really realize, like, you went through a struggle just as much as, anyone else that's trying to achieve something in life. There are struggle points, there are lessons that are learned, and there's uncomfortableness to all this. But, if you're, like you said, if you're learning, if you're taking the lesson from whatever the mistake or whatever happens, then you're in the right direction. You're moving in a good direction. I think it's just very hard to kind of take it at face value when it's happening. But I think I've been getting better at that. And some people around us as well, with like the content stuff we're doing, are really taking it like very serious now. And, making, if we do make a mistake, learning from it and getting better and moving forward instead of harping on it. And I think you did pick up on something that I do, because I do like beat myself up a lot about things. And I'm learning how to, like, not do that as much.
I don't know many people who don't beat themselves up.
Yeah.
There might be some.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
of course.
I'm sure there are.
But part of that process is a learning process.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to feel pain inside to learn, especially in relationships.
Yeah.
Sometimes we think that what we do in work is equal to our inside life, and it is to a certain degree, and not, because there's a difference when you get paid for something and you have to do it that way than if you're not getting paid, then you don't have to be, right? Like you were saying, the things that you study and learn, and I also, one of the things I learned, I think probably in the past, I won't say decade, but probably half plus, is a lot of times we look at something as we want to achieve that. And it's great because the goals bring us to some places. But sometimes there's a calling for us, and it's in the midway. So it's not where we dream exactly for, but there's something on the way that's beautiful. We need to learn to embrace it. And it's that we build our own crowd. We can't please everybody. We can try.
Yeah.
Okay. We can try to make our clients happy. We can try to make the people who are surrounding us happy. But if you look at your circle of friends, they change. There are the hardcore ones that stay from early,
Right.
and but your circle changes because it's a demographic, where you move to. I moved continents, from a totally different country, totally different area,
Yeah.
totally different language, So, and then also there's lifestyle, age. I have kids, so a lot of my friends have kids too. I have friends who don't have kids too, but as well. But things change. Your audience change too. It's like, how some bands have fans, and then they do a record or two that alienates the fans. And you know what? It's not the fans' fault. They less connect to that. They might like their old stuff.
Right.
And sometimes that's how a band gains new fans. And sometimes those new fans now want to go back
To the old
catalog,
stuff, yeah.
and they like the old stuff. And some of them don't. Some of them say, "Yeah, I'm good with the
The
new
new stuff is
stuff."
cool. Yeah,
You
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The old
So
stuff is a different time, different
yes,
thing,
yeah,
different,
everything connects to where we are at.
hmm
What you heard in your high school fit at that time. Some of it comes with you to other areas of life, and
hmm
some of it travels with you till this age,
hmm
and some just leaves. And you'll be like, yeah, when I was in high school, I was into that. I don't get excited from that now.
Not anymore.
Okay, well, it makes sense because back then you probably had the urge to,
Right,
I don't know, connect to that thing, or you had you were in a certain situation in life where things connected, just like habits,
right.
you know. So, and preferences too.
Yeah.
A lot of these things are part of music too, and it's not talked to much in 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 music because it's not interesting. But
Mm.
I think it's super interesting because in my growth on a musical and technical level, it's all about that. That's why when I listen to music, I don't care of any technical stuff, although I can talk technical
Of
with you.
course, of course.
But no, it's not what I care for. How much the music comes to me.
Mm.
Like, do I hear it all? Do I feel it all? Do I embrace it all? It needs to fill out those check boxes.
hmm
What's missing? Then I have to work on that. And it's all related to music is environmental. Music is a form of um, movement in
Mm.
sound. It's a form of connection to a feeling.
Mm.
You know, do you think music could be without sound?
Probably not.
Why
Well,
not?
actually, yes. Yes, 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 yes. And I
Okay.
say this because, and my only reference to it is more like some earlier hip hop I would listen to were like freestyle battles and like rap battles, and
Uh-huh.
that was purely just lyricism at one another, and that's it.
And that didn't have sound?
I guess it did the voice.
Exactly.
It did have sound. The voice is
See,
the sound.
music without sound
Yeah,
is notation.
notation.
Yeah. Like if I write now, let's say I write a symphony
hmm
and I only write it by notes. You can imagine it if you know what the notes
hmm
mean in your mind, but you're not really hearing it, you're imagining it.
Mm.
So music without sound is not music, it's notation
It's
of
notation.
music. And it's very interesting because if you ask most people, can music be without sound? And they'll assume probably, they can assume because they can have it in their head.
hmm
Yeah, and you can have music in your head, but how do you have it in your head with sound?
Mm.
You're imagining the sound. Okay, so when you tell me, those battle of the hip hop battles, each person who was battling had a different sound
hmm
of their voice.
hmm
They had different intonation,
hmm
how they said the words differently, how fast they said. What's the spaces between the words? It's sound.
hmm
Sound and music always went together.
For me, it's like it's just it's so much to take in of you know how we listen to music, how we interpret music. And every person that sit, on the other chair, with me on all these shows, it's like everyone has, a different interpretation. Some a little more surface, some a little deeper. Like you have definitely expanded it a little more for me today, because like just the way you approach music and how you listen to music and what it means to you is unlike any I've heard. It's very unique. So I appreciate your perspective on it. It's pretty cool. It's really, really cool.
Why do you think music touches people?
I think it comes back to just the psychology of people. Maybe it's the words, maybe it's the music, maybe it's how something's played. But for me personally, it's gonna be the sounds, like you say. It's gonna be how something is played, and then if there are words on top of that sound, then it gives me a different vibe. But when I listen to something and I feel it like emotionally hit me, which I've actually have been feeling that a little more nowadays. I don't know what that is, but I've like listened to music and it like just really hits me. Maybe it's deeper content, maybe it's like deeper things that I'm hearing. You know, people are maybe saying more realer things of some of the music I've been listening to, but it's I'm very like selective on what I'm hearing nowadays, and I guess that's just how I want to consume music today. I'm not gonna just go for everything that's pushed to me. So if something speaks to me, then I'll go to it. And if I go to it, there's usually some like emotional attachment to why I went to it. And I can't really explain. I just know that it gives me an emotion and I gravitate towards it.
So, do you know the saying when somebody tells you about something, they'll say, "Oh, story of my life."
Mm,
You can also say soundtrack of my life.
soundtrack of my life.
Okay. Um, we are always connected to music,
Yeah.
regardless if there's meaning to it that we connect with, like on a deep level or not.
Hmm.
Music will always move us,
Regardless. Yeah.
regardless. Some more, some less.
Hmm.
Okay. If it's in the background or if we're focused on listening.
Yeah.
When we get more connected to it, it's because we're more connected to ourselves too. And this is not just spiritual talk.
No.
I'm
Yeah.
just saying, like, when you feel something more connected to words, for
Mhm.
example, it's because you feel these words touch you.
Yeah.
It's because you're connected to them. Okay. When you're in your teenagehood and you're angry at everybody,
Yeah.
okay, it connects to you. That
Yeah.
anger connects to
True,
you. Okay. You
true.
want to be rebellious, it connects to you.
True.
I think that it's easy to forget those basic elements
Yeah.
because we tend to connect to information written. Oh, you got to
Mm,
cut that filter, if cut that frequency. Okay. Wait,
yeah. Do it a certain
when I'm
way.
doing it, does it help or not? You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
Right.
Same with, oh, you got to do that chord because that chord is the one. Well, what happens if you hit that other note there? Oh, okay. I actually like it. Gives this eerie feel, or,
Mhm.
oh, it gives me hope. If you look at music on that level, you also understand that people who are not musicians by trade or musicians that know how to play,
Mhm.
but they connect real close with music. There's a certain type of musicians. They don't play an instrument, but they understand music on a deeper level.
Mm.
So maybe they can't translate that to,
Right.
to
Like
composing or
a
playing on
theory
an
or knowing
instrument.
theory of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Or even compose or playing or
Right.
composing, but they connect on a level that they can speak it. And there's really good engineers that don't know how to play instruments, but they can speak with the musicians and say, no, move maybe higher, lower. Oh, yeah. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And the reason for that is because inside they are musicians. They just don't know how to put that in maybe into play. Like they
Mhm.
don't know how to play an instrument, but they don't definitely do know how to feel it and how to convey what they're feeling. And that's why there's very good engineers that are not musicians too,
Yeah.
because they have that ability.
And I'm interested even like even though they don't know how to play it, is there something, I mean, it's such a interesting concept of not being able to, play something, but knowing, would you say it's like is it a sound? Is it a sound thing? Is it a listening thing for someone like that? Or is it more feeling? Is it more both? Like, because they don't, again, like you say, they don't know how to play it, but they still have a direction. They still can, like, they can feel the direction of where things are going.
Yeah.
So is it like, is it a feeling? Is it an emotion? Is it, what is it that makes them able to do that?
It's a combination.
Yeah.
They have to know how to listen, and they do by nature.
Mm-hmm.
They can, of course, sharpen their skills in that.
Mm-hmm.
They have to know how to convey that, which is a task by itself.
Yeah,
Knowing
yeah.
how to say what you need is needed.
Which was my other thing of like being able to communicate to them and
Yes.
say, this and that.
Yeah. So you need to know how to do that, and you learn in time to do that, better and better because you gain experience.
Right.
Also, it's the combination of feeling what it does to you. Like, okay, I feel it, but now understanding it on a level of there's an attachment, but at the same time there's a disattachment.
Mhm.
So they're not just biased to it and say, okay, I like it because it was done.
Mm-hmm.
No, you need to like it because it did something.
Mm-hmm.
It's like in our jobs, a lot of times we have to stay objective as much as possible.
Mm.
At the end of the day, when you work on something, the objectivity level goes down and the subjectivity level goes up.
Mm.
Okay, if I get a project to work on, I'm totally objective in the beginning. But as I work on it, I'm still objective, less objective, more
Mhm.
subjective, more, it's like the curve changes. And as you're more involved, the
Mhm.
objectivity factor goes down and the
Right.
subjectivity goes up. But you're more objective than the artist who did it.
Because you always have to keep that level,
Yes.
the separation.
Right. But you're still getting more involved. And of
Mhm.
course, when you apply your art,
Right.
now you're less subjective. But still, you're more than the artist, or like, it's always who's next in the chain. The producer is doing his thing, and then the mixer's doing, and then, so the mixer will probably be more objective than the producer,
Mhm.
but the producer calls the shots.
Mm.
Okay. The mastering engineer will be more objective than the mixer, but either the mixer or the producer or the artist or all of them calls the shot.
Mhm.
So as you go up in the uh, scale of close to finishing the project, the objectivity level gets higher
Mm.
because there's less time on each of the process, But at the same time, the responsibility, you have a lot of responsibility as you go, all the time you have more, there's responsibility, and you're more, and you're objective, but in time you're objective, subjective,
Mhm.
subjective,
Yeah.
and then in the end it's like, okay, are we good with it or not? You have to please everybody. And now everybody is not objective anymore.
Exactly.
Everybody's subjective now. Even if
Yeah.
you are the least subjective and the most objective, still shots being called
Yeah.
by the subjective people, and you're now part of it. So you understand that the more you do it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a guessing game.
Yeah.
Really,
I
if
was
you
gonna
think of
say,
it,
does
it's
it
a
even
guessing
get
game.
easier for you as you continue? Does that process become easier for you?
It gets easier in the form of you understanding
Mhm.
it. You never know if it gets easier because you never know who's your client.
Right.
And you never know, even if you know who's the client, he might be the mixer or producer. You never know what that music would be for the artist itself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's their emotions.
Right.
They have to live with that record. You
Right.
live with it as well, but they have to live with it longer because now it's representative of them as an artist.
Right.
It's representative of you as a mixer, producer, mixing engineer, mastering engineer, engineer. But you're going to move to the next project.
Mm-hmm.
They have to either live with it and then move to the next song or next album. But
Yeah.
you're probably going to have more things involved, especially if that's your day-to-day
Right.
career,
Right.
right? Where that's your paycheck.
Right.
You know?
Right.
If you do it once in a while, yeah, maybe the artist will have more releases than you. But again, the more you do that as your source of income or
Yeah.
your meat and potatoes of your living, uh, financially, and the time that's spent on the day, then yeah, you have to understand that, and it becomes easier because you understand it.
Right.
But there's always going to be
Mm-hmm.
that project.
Yes.
There's always going to be a first time for like, oh,
for something.
I've mastered thousands of, songs, and now came in something like that. I had an album where I mastered it, I think, more than 23 times.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's a point where like, well, maybe I'm not fitting, or you start doubting
Well,
yourself.
23 times.
That's a lot for an album, not a song, right? And then they choose master number 2. But then you look at history, Billie Jean
was
was
gonna say.
mixed
What was it?
more than 90 times.
And they chose what, the second?
Second or third or
That's
fourth. I don't
so
know. You can correct me.
crazy.
I'm not sure. I
Right,
know
whatever
exactly.
the number, but it's still amazing.
But, the amount of mixes were in the
Jesus.
higher part, like, in the 90 something, it's like, okay, then those
Jesus.
things happen.
Jesus. I would even argue, um, you were saying about subjective, objective. I would almost even argue, maybe, I guess maybe as your position, right? A mastering engineer, but maybe anyone else too in the process. But I feel like you are subjective when you're in it because you have, you want to put your your taste on it, your spin on it. But I would argue, like what you were saying about the fact that once it's done, it's done. You're almost objective because of that end result of you saying, I gave it my best, here's my final, and now I move on to the next thing. Where you say the artist has to like kind of live with it, you know?
Well, when you said I'm subjective when I come in, I- I'm not sure subjectivity would be the big picture is much more as biased to a certain degree.
Okay, okay, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Um, Everything in life is objective and subjective. You can't
Yeah,
take that away. They
right,
just
right,
go together.
right.
But I come into a project objective because I'm just listening.
Mhm.
Now, it's true that there's a subjectivity factor. For example, if I like the music style or if I like the person I'm working with, okay? Yes, those things can bias me.
Yeah.
But sometimes because you like the person, you want to make sure he's doing his best job. So you
Yeah.
give him the truth because you want him. You'll be like, hey, you need to fix this and this and this
Yeah, yeah,
because I
yeah.
care, because I'm your friend, because I want you to be successful at it.
Yeah.
You're never going to get away from biasing
Yeah.
and you're never going to get away from subjectivity. But the big picture would have the objectivity
Yeah, that would be, yeah.
as the bigger, and then it will shrink as you work on it. But still, you'll be more objective than the artist in the beginning.
Yeah.
But, if you come to him and say, well, I'm objective, I know what I'm saying, then he can say, well, I'm the artist, I know what I'm connecting with.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a forever.
Both are valid points.
Right, right.
But at the end of the day, you know, even though there's a saying the client is always right, no, he could be totally wrong.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, who calls the shots
Yeah.
is who matters.
Yeah.
And if he decided he likes it and you don't think it's your best work, but he loves it, okay, so be it.
Yeah. And that's how it goes.
Yeah, because it's a service
Yeah.
industry.
Thank you so much for today. I really do appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. If you want to let the people know where they can find you, basically some plugs, anything you want to plug, or let the people know.
My name is Maor Appelbaum, and my website is maorappelbaum.com, which is MAORAPPELBAUM.com. I'll repeat with a www.MAORAPPELBAUM.com. And you can find me on social media, probably Maor Appelbaum or Maor Appelbaum Mastering. I'm probably easy to find on Google.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And just one thing I want to wish everybody is like, be creative.
Yeah.
Don't hold back. Enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's you, it's yourself, it's your emotional impact, and enjoy it. Even if it's a struggle, it's your art. Do it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. On that note, guys, thank you so much for being here and for watching. As you guys know, as always, like, subscribe, comment. Let's get engagement up. Let's do whatever we can to get the podcast out. It's a really special one today, and I appreciate you again for being here. And guys, we will see you on the next one. Have a good night.